had a dream about Jack D'Manio last night, and that's why I'm late this morning. I'm sorry, at 6:36. We did start at 6:35, only 5 minutes late. And this is your potty little radio station from a potty little town in a potty little sector. With a completely potty guy in charge. But here's your buddy from Ben Sound to welcome you into the day. And hey ho, it's a Friday. Won't be long before it's Monday morning again. Good morning, Keith Hayes with Rouser Radio, coming out of Lewes in East Sussex, tiny little town, but talking to the world, both through radio and television, and we're growing, we're getting people to listen to us. It's quite remarkable, these statistics, but I'm also getting all sorts of ideas for our television, Mirador Television, miradortelevision.com, from all over the world, and the latest is, why don't we have a program on model railways? And that comes from somebody somewhere up north, and it's not a bad idea because I'm a model railway nut and I've got tons of this stuff tucked in boxes. Haven't had a chance to get them out recently because I've been so busy with radio and television, but I mustn't ignore them because, like Toy Story, I'm sure that they're sitting there thinking the boss has forgotten them. So yes, a good idea, and perhaps what we'll do is we will start off with a 5-minute in our new schedule on Mirador Television, and it will be a new schedule on Rouser Radio, because we are going to expand our radio activities only gently, but ultimately we hope that anybody who doesn't have have Roku and doesn't have smart TV will soon be able to see us one way or another for at least half an hour a week. And I hope that because it will be semi-local but still retain its international charm, that we'll get a few people who will find us and don't know about us. The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town, our documentary, continues to go from strength to strength. I'm being stopped in the street regularly, and it has been commissioned for another 3 years by the Together channel, and we're now actively working on the I was going to say the consequences. The sequel. Oh, it's that sort of morning when you pour out of bed thinking about poor old Jack D'Manio. I had a little dream about him last night, about how he was always late into the studio and always doing all sorts of strange things that kept the listener and the viewer bemused and puzzled. And I suppose really is when people listen to this and watch Mirador Television, they say, well, what's the purpose of it? Well, the purpose is to have a bloody good giggle, because around and about there is lots of doom and gloom in the world. That lot in Brussels and that lot in Westminster. I mean, they couldn't negotiate their way out of a brown paper bag. Come back, Margaret, all is forgiven. She would have pierced the bloody thing and got them on the way. But they're just as bad as one another. There is no difference. Brexit is I'm not against Brexit, don't misunderstand. What I am against is the faffing around that we get, both from civil servants and from our so-called leaders. And that goes for national and local politics, and now joined by international politics. The Chinese must be sitting there rubbing their hands with glee to see how democracy can be mucked up, when in fact what it's got is a bunch of greedy chancers in charge, instead of people who felt that it was their duty. And I come from an age where I met a number of people. I was influenced by a number of people who believed in duty. It didn't matter whether they'd got tuppence in their pocket or whether they're multimillionaires. They actually believed in duty. And I suppose, in theory, it's a good idea to say, let's pay MPs, let's pay councillors, let's put out the money, let's dole out the cash. The trouble is that over a period of time that becomes corrupted, so the sense of duty is lost as the shekels start to jingle in the tills and in the pockets. Oh, dearie me, as you can guess, my battle with the local council continues on unabated. I have one lovely lady there who is actually full of action. She's charming. I've never met her, but we get along very well on the internet. But she takes up my cause, and which is a pretty complicated one. I'm not going to bother you with it, but she takes up my cause with gusto and tries to get her colleagues to do something, to act, because it's not something that is selfish for me. It is that my sense of duty has just gone beyond the pale. It's costing me in my pocket, it's costing me emotionally, it's costing me in terms of my business. Now, when that starts to happen, you have to decide how much do you give to your community. And since the community, as represented by elected people and appointed people, doesn't seem to be doing much in return, why should I give a fig? Of course I do. And then I say, this is what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to stamp my foot, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And of course I don't. But what I am capable of doing, thank God, He gave me the skill to write. So the first part of Is This How We Should Be Governed is now starting to take shape. And I hope that I can get it distributed far enough that enough people will say, yes, enough of this. We are all mouth and no trousers. We yell that we look after the sick, the lame, the elderly, and the mentally ill. But we do not. What we do is we shout a lot. We don't actually do anything. It doesn't actually percolate down to where it should be at the face-to-face level. And it's appalling. Absolutely appalling. And yet the do-gooders ponce around. See, they don't do their research. They don't bother to find out whether anything. They just take for granted that Prince William is now heading up, giving blessing to mental health problems, that the government is pouring more and more money in, and what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Well, all of it is a sham. I am living proof of that, because I'm right at the heart of it. And I'll tell you now, nothing is happening. Nobody's doing anything. Not even training people behind counters, instead of ducking and diving when they see a troublesome, so we say strained, mentally capacitated person coming. They all duck and dive to see who pulls the short straw and gets to deal with them, instead of being trained to deal with them properly and to make sure that they get the service which they should have and which taxes pay for. It just ain't happening. It is not happening. And if there is do-gooders listening to this morning, then I suggest that you go and get your group together and do a bit of investigation. Because even at the charity level, it's impossible. Now, okay, naughty. I'm going to play something in a minute, because I looked up some music this morning with the term either Friday in it or weekend. But then there was one that was thrown up as being for Friday or weekend as cocktails. So I really do think I need to listen to that. Oh, I'll listen to that first. But then let me tell you, when I come back, what we're doing for cancer research, because it's taken a bad hit. it's taken a bad hit, and yet, because of coronavirus, it has not lessened the devastating effects of cancer. They need that cash. They need that money. And cancer research has dropped a couple of million because of what's happened. Where are the do-gooders? Come on, do-gooders. Let's get cracking. Get cracking and get behind cancer research, because it is one of the most worthwhile charities you'll come across. And as far as I can see, is reasonably efficient and is reasonably creative in the way that it actually gets its money. And it doesn't offer pay £3 and this will happen, because everybody wants you to pay £3 and that will happen. I have my doubts. Here's Cocktails. Well, that was a bit schmoozy for this time of the morning, I suppose, but it just took me back to my I shouldn't say cub reporter, but my young reporter days, when I was in Vancouver and I was assigned the creative arts reporting slot for a wonderful paper called the Lionsgate Times. I don't think it exists anymore, unfortunately. It was a wonderful paper, and it had a great editor, a famous editor from across the whole range of media in Canada, who decided to open up the Lionsgate Times when he retired, because he didn't want to leave journalism, and I understand that because I've done exactly the same thing. But I was the reporter who looked after all the theatres and so on and so forth. But in those days, Vancouver had a nightclub called The Cave. And when I heard that thing from Cocktails, it reminded